He did kill quite a few people. Confirmed, I believe he killed 9 people, although he claimed 27 murders. And the Sausage King of Chicago, that's hard to say, decided that he didn't like his second wife, so he was going to murder her.
The creature he was described as grayish colored, about 4 feet tall, had 3 legs, 2 small arms on its chest, kind of like a T-Rex. Welcome back to Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptids, brought to you by Ghost City Tours, the #1 ghost tour company in the world. Today, our focus is the great city of Chicago, a city built fast, burned down once, and then rebuilt on secrets. We're talking about one of the most infamous figures in American history, a murder case that shocked the country at the turn of the century, and a creature that terrorized a small Illinois town for a single unforgettable summer. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so we are in Chicago. Paul, do you have any experience with Chicago before we get started?
Chicago, yeah, the second city there.
Second city, like the improv troupe?
Well, Chicago is called the second city.
Oh, that's why they...
Yeah, they're named after the nickname.
Who's the first city?
New York, I guess? I don't know.
Huh. Well, today we're not in New York, we're in Chicago, and we're starting off with a man by the name of H.H. Holmes. Now, when it comes to creepy figures tied to Chicago, there's really only one place to start, Paul. Of course, H.H. Holmes is often described as America's first serial killer, and the scale, planning, and sheer audacity of what he built in the city still feels unreal more than a century later. Why don't you kind of walk us through who Holmes was and, you know, what makes this story feel mythological?
Yeah, so H.H. Holmes is an interesting character because there's what he actually did and then what they said about him. And part of the problem with H.H. Holmes and figuring out really what he did is he was a prolific liar. His words are hard. But Holmes was not his real name. I forget what his real name is because I'm not good at doing research or remembering things.
That's what you can expect out of this show, folks.
But Holmes went to Chicago, and he was really more a con man than he was a serial killer. So the big sort of fake story, for lack of a better way to put it, about Holmes is that he had a 3-story murder house in Chicago. So they were having the World's Fair in Chicago, and Holmes bought this property and he was building it up. He claimed at the time that he was going to make it into a luxury hotel for the World's Fair, and everybody was visiting there. And the story goes that the hotel was basically a series of mazes and doors that would open up, and there would just be a brick wall. There was a torture chamber, all this other stuff. Frankly, it's all bullshit.
Oh, I mean, that's good.
Yeah. But what is true is that Holmes was a murderer, and he did kill quite a few people. Confirmed, I believe he killed 9 people, although he claimed 27 murders, and they may attribute up to 100 murders to him.
Up to 100 murders?
Up to 100 murders. But again, this comes into part of the problems that Holmes was a prolific liar, and also at the time there was a thing called yellow journalism, where essentially they were just trying to sell newspapers, so they would make up sensationalistic stories. And the fact that this guy had killed so many people at the time, you know, it was a big deal. So they said, oh, well, this guy killed all these other people. Really what he was doing is... his murders really came down to 2 things. Number one is he went to medical school at one point in time and considered himself to be a little bit of an expert, even though he was a moron. And he did a couple of botched abortions that wound up killing the women. And then he, you know, would dispose of the bodies. Primarily his method for disposing of the bodies was by selling them to medical schools for research, or he would basically get the bodies down to bones, and then he had some doctor friends who would put the bones together and then sell the skeletons. The other thing that he did, and this was more of his jam, so to speak, was that he would take out life insurance policies on the people and then murder them and collect the life insurance.
So how was he taking out these life insurance policies on them?
You know, it was the 1800s. People didn't really check on those things about who was the beneficiary. And it worked out well for him for a while, except Holmes had a partner who was generally regarded as an idiot, who Holmes more or less manipulated, right? And so he convinces his partner, buddy, he's like, hey man, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take out a big life insurance policy on you, and we'll fake your death, and then I'll take half the money. I'll give your wife half the money, and then you guys, you know, scurry away together. But Holmes, being Holmes, decided that instead of faking the guy's death. He was actually just going to go ahead and murder him. So he murders the guy and then convinces the guy's wife that they had successfully faked his death. And then Holmes tells the wife, he's like, hey, I need to take your children and go scurry them away so that we can move them and you guys can meet up with your husband. And in actuality, he murdered the kids because he was a piece of shit. So, not a great guy. Anyway, eventually they caught him because of this particular crime, and that was the point where he confessed to 27 murders. Oddly enough, one of the people that he claimed to have murdered was still alive. So that was weird. He didn't try to get out of it. At one point, he claimed that he was possessed by the devil, and that was why he killed all these people. And ultimately, he was hung to death. And in a bit of, I guess, poetic justice, the hanging didn't go so well, and it took him 15 minutes to die.
Oh, wow.
So, karma's a bitch.
Do you know if there was like an audience?
I'm sure there was.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
Families of 27 people?
Yeah. I'm sure some people watched him, shuffle off his mortal coil. I will say this. I mean, there's not a lot of nice things to say about H.H. Holmes, but he did have one hell of a mustache.
Yeah, we have a picture here for you so you can see what H.H. Holmes looked like. I mean, it's such a prolific, I'm not waxing poetic about the man, but prolific serial killer, even if 27 is the correct number. It just seems like an impossible feat today.
Yeah, it's a lot harder now. They got the DNA and everybody's got a phone in their pocket. You can't just kill people anymore. It's not like the good old days.
So what, in your opinion, is the kind of creepiest thing about this guy?
I mean, outside of the 27 people that he allegedly murdered?
Yeah.
Well, 26, I guess, because one of them was alive. It's got to be the murder house. So even though the murder house isn't what it was claimed to be in the papers of the torture chambers and everything else, there was supposedly some hidden rooms in there where he would stash bodies and stuff. The building shortly after Holmes was arrested was lit on fire by an unknown arsonist. So any evidence of what was or was not actually there is gone. They subsequently used it as a post office, and today it's condominiums. So
haunted condominiums?
I'm sure they are. I mean, that many people died in them. If you believe in ghosts, there's probably some ghosts.
And you can find all these ghost stories by taking a ghost tour at ghostcitytours.com. Let's talk more about it, shall we? If stories like this are the side of Chicago that you find fascinating, Ghost City Tours runs walking tours through the city that dive into the darker history of Chicago, from notorious figures to infamous crimes and everything in between. If you want to experience Chicago's past up close, you can find our tours at ghostcitytours.com. All right, let's get back to it. All right, for the crime story, this case horrified Chicago and made headlines across the country. Adolf Luetgert, Paul, was a successful businessman when his wife suddenly vanished, and the explanation he offered raised more questions than answered. What followed was a trial filled with circumstantial evidence, disturbing discoveries, and a verdict that people still debate today. Paul, take us through the case of old Adolf.
So Adolf is probably my second least favorite Adolf, I gotta say. There's not, that's a name that died out. So Adolf was a sausage magnate, if you will, in the great city of Chicago. So he had a big sausage factory.
He was the big sausage king of Chicago?
He was the sausage king of Chicago. And the sausage king of Chicago, that's hard to say, decided that he didn't like his second wife. So he was going to murder her. And that's not so much what makes it a really disturbing crime. After he murders the wife, because, a lot of people have murdered their wives over the years. But what makes it particularly disturbing is that he took her body and put it in a big vat that they would use to, what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess decompose meat. And let her remains sort of dissolve in there inside the sausage factory. And then he took the bones and threw them out back where they would put all the animal bones at. They ultimately caught him because there was a ring at the bottom of the meat vat that had her initials inscribed in it. And when they searched the grounds, they found a skull of a human being in the boneyard. So like 3 days after he had murdered his wife, the wife's brother showed up to the house and was like, hey, where's my sister? And he's like, oh, she took off. I don't know where she's at. And the brother was like, well, why didn't you call the police? He's like, broads, what are you going to do? His name was Adolf. He wasn't a good guy. So
comes to the territory.
So the brother calls the police, and immediately the cops are like, well, this sausage king clearly did this. And he kept trying to get back into his sausage factory to hide the evidence, but the police wouldn't let him in. And then weirdly enough, he actually got a hung jury on the first go round. And then they convicted him the second time.
The second. So I thought if it's a hung jury, then it's just a no trial, like mistrial or.
No, if it's a hung jury, the state can decide whether or not they want to prosecute again and do a whole new trial. Usually they don't, but in the case of the Sausage King, he was not so lucky.
So was he serving sausages to people with people's bodies in them?
I mean,
like a Sweeney Todd situation?
No, I mean we could pretend if that makes it creepier, but no, I don't think anybody was eating the sausages. There was a different guy who was doing that though.
Who?
It wasn't in Chicago. I don't remember what his name is. But there's a serial killer who was like murdering people and then set up a roadside hamburger stand.
Oh,
remember we talked about it? We'll have to find out where that is.
Yeah, if you know that story, put it in the comments. We'll go.
There you go. We'll talk about it. I tend to read things on the internet and then I don't remember them, but I remember pieces of them. So I talk authoritatively as if I remember things, and I don't.
You think does that? So he was. So this was in the late 1800s, right?
Yes.
So he was probably one of the last people on Earth to be named Adolf.
I mean,
there's probably a string of them until the big one.
Yeah, I had a great uncle Adolf.
You're German, aren't you?
Partly. I'm gonna, but all it takes is a little German. It takes over the rest of you. So no, my grandmother was German. She never talked about it because she was born in the 30s, and yes, it was not okay to be German when she was a kid. So we never talked about being German, but yeah, she had an uncle Adolf. No relation.
Does Ghost City Tours talk about this guy on any of our tours?
Maybe. I don't live in Chicago. I've never taken a ghost tour in Chicago, but if they don't, they should, because it's Haunted Sausages.
Haunted Sausages is a name of a band that I would like to start. The Ghost City Tours band.
The GCT band?
GCT band.
That's nice.
Haunted Sausages.
Or that's the album for the GCT band.
Ooh. Yeah, we got some work to do on that. Okay, anything else about old Adolf?
Hell of a painter.
Huh?
What?
All right.
So if you're enjoying this podcast, every city that we cover on this show is actually a city that we do tours in. So if you want a deeper dive into the haunted history of the various cities across America, check out Ghost City Tours.
And what's that website, Paul?
That'd be ghostcitytours.com.
Ghostcitytours.com.
All right, let's end with something strange.
To close things out, we're leaving the city, Paul, and heading south into Illinois farmland. In the 1970s, a small town called Enfield became the center of one of the strangest cryptid flaps in the Midwest, something that multiple people claimed to see, and no one could quite explain. It became known simply as the Enfield Horror. Now, I got some notes here to kind of talk about this cryptid.
The Enfield Horror?
The Enfield Horror.
Oh, okay. I'm less interested. Go on.
So April 25th, 1973, right? A 10-year-old Greg Garrett, he reacted to being attacked, apparently. Yeah, some creature tore his sneakers up. And about 30 minutes later, Henry McDaniel came home and claimed a similar creature tried to enter his home. And, he's got a home. Doesn't want any sort of weird creature to get into it. So naturally, what do? You shoot it. So he shoots at this creature, and apparently it like made like a whimper, like a screech, and then went off into the night. Don't know if he killed it. Doesn't believe that he did. And this creature, he was described as grayish colored, about 4 feet tall, had 3 legs, 2 small arms on its chest, kind of like a T-Rex. It had apparently great speed. He could jump at least like 20 feet in one bound. It left dog-like footprints that he saw on the ground, but it's said to have like 6 toes, not like your normal dog footprint. So he causes like a ruckus about this. It makes like big news in all the papers around Illinois, and people started. After some of these news reports, one news station, they sent a reporter to go like chase this cryptid, and then with that came excitement, and so people started coming like with guns to go hunt this cryptid. So that became like a whole to do. So like the police had to come out and say, "Hey guys, stop bringing your guns out here trying to shoot cryptids." Like they would get drunk and start popping off rounds trying to find this cryptid. People believe though that this man I think probably went to his grave believing that this thing existed.
Sure.
But some people explain it as either a wild monkey of sorts, or more likely an escaped kangaroo, which would explain the three tails.
Where would the kangaroo have escaped from?
I'm glad you asked that. So there was apparently a man, I can't remember his name, but we can put it like on the screen, but he allegedly said that at the time of the incident, his pet kangaroo had gone missing for a little bit. And then he came back, could have also escaped from a local zoo. But yeah, they believe it was some sort of little kangaroo of sorts.
Did the kangaroo come back with a bullet hole in him?
I'm not sure. I should probably follow up on that.
That seems like that would be. Also, are kangaroos gray?
It was dark.
Okay. I mean, why did the kangaroo tear up a kid's tennis shoes?
Well, so about the kid, allegedly the kid came out and said later, probably after being pressed, that he was just trying to pull a prank on old man McDaniel. And
who is old man McDaniel?
Well, Henry McDaniel was the guy who shot the cryptid allegedly. Allegedly 30 minutes after the cryptid was first sighted by the kid messing up his tennis shoes.
I see. So let me understand the timeline here.
Mm-hmm.
Old man McDaniel shoots a thing. And then he's like, hey, there's a three-legged creature. And then this kid is like, oh, I saw it too.
Basically.
Before the guy shot it and he messed up my tennis shoes.
Right.
Okay. So really there was only one alleged sighting of this thing.
There's the most famous sighting is through Mr. McDaniel.
I see. And they couldn't come up with a better name for it?
I guess, just it was just this, no. No.
So, all right. Allegedly, there's a kangaroo hopping around out there. The kangaroo goes into a guy's house. He shoots. Do we know what he shot it with?
A shotgun, maybe?
Oh, okay.
I'd have to go look at the old Wikipedia.
Or just ask the devil.
Yeah.
That's ChatGPT.
I guess with that being said, Paul, whether this was a kangaroo or actually some sort of cryptid that was never ever be found again, on kangaroos, do you think you could take a kangaroo in a fight?
No, dude. Have you ever seen a kangaroo?
Like a full-grown Australian kangaroo?
Vicious. Those are big boys. They got some meat on them. They're also lazy, though.
Really?
Yeah. Where did I go? There's some place over here in Louisiana, like in Podunk, Louisiana.
Global Wildlife?
No, it's not Global Wildlife. They have them there, too. They're smaller over there, though. There's like a place, I don't know, like central Louisiana, where you can go feed a giraffe and wander around with some kangaroos, and they just lay there and do nothing. I don't know if they're drugging them up or what. Probably are. Let's be honest.
Now we're talking about it out loud.
It's South Louisiana. It's not really regulated.
Yeah,
what you're doing with
there was a guy on I-10 who owned a gas station called the Tiger Stop, and there was a full Bengal tiger in there.
He's still there. He's just stuffed now.
Yeah, that's right.
He's in a glass case.
That's not that can't be that tiger, huh? It's got to just be like a stuffed.
No, dude, they kept that tiger. They didn't. You're not going to spend money on getting another tiger stuffed.
Oh,
you know why they didn't get a new one when that tiger died?
Well, they got a camel instead, right?
Yeah, but he got that tiger from the Tiger King guy, and then the Tiger King guy went to jail.
Oh,
so they couldn't get a new tiger because he lost his hookup on how to get a tiger. Mother. All right, we're gonna ignore that. Yeah, so that's why he switched to a camel, because you can get a camel easier than you get a tiger, apparently.
Interesting. I always remembered one of Rogan's old bits that he used to talk about, like there's more tigers in captivity in Texas than there are in the entire wild of the world.
Dude, you talk about Texas cryptids. Here's a fun story. This has nothing to do with Chicago.
Okay.
We're on this tangent now. So there's this guy out hunting in Texas, right? He put him out, he goes out in a blind, it's like a box in the woods that you sit at. It's like 4 a.m. or something. It's pitch black outside. He's sitting there on his phone texting. All of a sudden, this hand comes in and grabs the phone. So the guy just takes his gun and starts shooting. And, all his buddies, they're down another part of the woods. They hear the gunshots going off, and they're like, oh, we got to go see what Dave's doing, or whatever the hell the guy's name is, right? So they go to find Dave, and as they're going over there on their four-wheelers, they see Dave just hauling ass through the woods, right? And they're like, hey, man, what's going on? And he goes, I just shot Bigfoot. And they're like, what are you talking about, dude? He was like, Bigfoot tried to grab my phone, so I shot him. And they're like, you're out of your mind. He goes, I don't care. Put me on the four-wheeler, take me back to the hunting camp. I'm not going back there. So they're laughing at him, whatever. They take him over, back to the hunting camp. And they're like, let's go see what's going on. So they go out back to Dave's blind. There's bullet holes in the thing, and there's blood. And they're like, what the hell? And then about 200 feet away from the blind, there's a dead silverback gorilla.
Whoa.
Yeah. That had apparently escaped from one of these weird Texas people's houses. And they went and told the local sheriff, and he was like, oh, yeah, that's Jim Baker's gorilla. He's been out. Well, Jim will be happy to know what happened to him.
Oh. Damn, I can't imagine a silverback gorilla. I mean, a tiger also is crazy to keep in your backyard.
Yeah.
But who'd win in a fight, a silverback gorilla or a tiger?
Gorilla, dude. Gorillas are big.
Yeah.
Those are big boys, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a spot in Florida I went. This isn't a gorilla, but they have orangutans. I think it's huge. It's the size of a freaking minivan.
Oh, yeah.
They're giant. Big monsters. Big monkeys.
Well, that's in Florida, and of course, the other one was in Texas. But if you live in the Chicago area or Illinois, and there's a cryptid that we obviously didn't talk about today, please leave it in the comments. We'll circle back to Chicago eventually, and we'll do a deep dive on the cryptid of which you recommended. For now, though, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptids. Paul, if you enjoyed it, please make sure you're following the show. And if you're watching it on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. Next week, we're heading to another city where we operate. That would be Sin City itself, Las Vegas. Until then, we'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on whatever platform you use for podcasts, and be sure to check out our other content on the Ghost City Tours YouTube page. The stories, theories, and opinions shared on Creeps, Crimes, and Cryptids are those of the hosts alone and do not necessarily reflect the views of Ghost City Tours, living, dead, or otherwise.